and stockpiling of materials. The site preparation is now significantly advanced, and I am pleased to inform you that the construction of landside buildings, including the passenger terminal and related facilities, is set to commence shortly. Additionally, the runway, a critical component of the project, is quickly taking form. Now, I have heard some questions in the public as to why don't we finish the runway before doing the terminal buildings? What I've been told by the engineers and the contractor is that once the runway alignment is set, it has to rest for 1 year before they can place the concrete and asphalt on this, so that it has to go for, I believe, maybe 2 rainy seasons thereabout before you can place concrete and asphalt in it. And so they're taking the time to build terminal buildings and the other landside buildings, so as not to wait for time or to waste time, as you would say. And so I understand that there has been also some public discussion and speculation regarding the pace of activities, and work is ongoing pace. Obviously, it's a huge site. A lot of cotton filling, is other flat land, and so it's a lot of moving parts at the airport. The government of Dominica remains firmly committed to seeing this project through to completion, and ask for the continued patience and support of Dominican people as we work to realize this long anticipated dream. There's no doubt this project is going to help transform the country. And if we're seeing the kind of movements that we're now experiencing at Douglas Charles, one can only appreciate once we address the limitations of Douglas Charles. We have to prepare ourselves as a nation, and we should not wait for when the project is completed and then try to position ourselves.
Thank you.
In respect to the Bluebell to Bagatelle Road, as you may be aware, works have started on the Bluebell to Bagatelle Road, much to the appreciation of road users and villagers. It is a project that was long awaited, but which is finally happening, and we thank God for that. When completed, the safety of the road users will be dramatically enhanced. In respect to the marina, works are on schedule with several Dominican workers and service providers engaged, because that project is making and make a huge impact on our tourism product and foreign exchange in Dominica. Dominica is ideally located for yachties and for yachts, being in the center of the chain of islands, and the only challenge we have is that we don't have the facilities to really take advantage of the presence of yachts. And with that marina, one can appreciate the impact on not only Portsmouth, but the whole north and of course the entire country of Dominica. The cable car is on schedule, barring any unforeseen challenges. Currently there are 304 Dominicans directly employed on the project. And so this is going to be a major impact on the project. The residents of Bents, as they may, and the fishermen of the north, from Penville, Bakers, and so forth, who utilize, so it's my project today, so. Who utilize the Anzime port, have been waiting for this new jetty and facilities, and so the contract will be signed in the first week of May. I said Friday, but they tell me first week of May. So I said first week of May. Go Friday, the 1st of May. But just to say that we have small funds and we can start the project, and so a contract will be signed. And for this, also a contract will be signed in the first week of May to reinstate the collapsed section on the Scott said sea defense wall. And so we're happy for that, and those two contracts will be signed this week. We go to Parliament in May of this month to contract a loan from the World Bank. We're taking a loan as budget support, and the two critical interventions which will be covered, among others, by this loan. One is the resettlement of the Pili Soufriere Sansobe residents, and also to assist in the facilitation of the resettlement of the residents of Campbell. As you know, we've acquired land in Warner, with Social Security, and those lands will be having assigned to for the relocation. We've also acquired lands in Castlebrus for the resettlement of the residents of Pili Soufrière and San Soufrière. And just to say to you that we have signed, before I ask you, allow you to ask questions, we've also signed contracts for the construction or the commencement of the future housing project. So there will be 2 model homes constructed at Warner, and one will be constructed at Cotton Hill in Portsmouth, well, in the Cottage constituency, so that prospective homeowners can have an appreciation for what it's going to look like and whether they'll be interested in owning a home in Dublin. I want to thank you for the courtesy of listening.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Quite a few highlights, revelations, very newsy, right, Matt? I know the Prime Minister may have preempted some of your questions, but I'm sure you have follow-ups, and so I would like to invite the media to pose your questions. We will go first with Curtis Matthew of Judiciary.
Thank you very much, Zion Jura Smith, and good morning to everyone. My first question is, what for you, Prime Minister Skerrit, were the main takeaways from the investment summit in Antigua last week? Second question, do you think, given everything, the citizenship by investment program is under threat? And can you outline how much funds have been generated from the citizenship by investment program for the last few months? And what are the changes? What are the changes can one anticipate to come for the program? And Prime Minister, my final question has to do with I think it's wrong. It has to do with a High Court ruling recently, the lawsuit filed by the United Workers' Party regarding the handling of funds under the citizenship by investment program. The court sitting and the session for the court is due sometime in May. The court has said that matter will move forward and it is scheduled for sometime the 20th of May. So that has been my first round. Let's see what happens in the second round.
Thank you very much. Now, we had some very constructive engagements in Antigua. First among ourselves as heads, and just to say that there is very strong political will coming from every head of government for the CBI program for us to advance the provisions of the agreement that we signed. Following the agreement we signed, as you know, we appointed an interim regulatory commission, and that commission has been tasked with the drafting of the draft bills, harmonized bills, to give effect to the independent regulatory commission, among many other aspects of the bill. So that bill will be ready, I've been told, in the month of May, and with the intention of going to Parliament before the end of 2025, all of us together in our respective countries, go into our parliaments and to pass that legislation. So work is ongoing. We also had some very constructive engagement with representatives of the EU, the US government, and the US Embassy, and also the UK. And we were able to exchange views with them, along with the interim independent regulatory commission members, on issues relating to the CBI program. It was very enlightening. It is an opportunity to provide information and to clarify certain things. So I felt, and I think as if you are all, that the engagement was very important. And of course we had a broader engagement with other stakeholders within the citizenship by investment industry. And this is where my call was made, that people need to speak. And I'm not asking people to defend any prime minister or myself politically. We can do that. But we all have to understand and appreciate the importance of this program to our countries. And the reality is, in Dominica's case, there is no citizen who can say that they have not benefited from the CBI program. None. Whether it is from housing, whether it's from support to private sector people after the hurricane, well, COVID, and procurement of pharmaceuticals and PPEs, whether it's from roads, whether it's bridges, whether it's hospitals, whether it's health centers, whether it's schools, whether it's monies for farmers, whether it's small business, social safety nets, the 60 and over allowances, the NEP that we spend about $5 million every month and goes directly into the pockets of individuals. So while we may not have a bonus salary, but we're giving people homes, we're giving people scholarships to go to school, which is $250,000, $300,000. An average home will cost $350,000 that we give to people at no cost to them. All of this financed by the Citizens Investment Program. And of course, the construction of international airport, the construction of the marina, bringing in foreign exchange, people are employed, shops are selling the goods, and businesses are being developed as a result of the investment. So we're able to discuss this thing. I think we are closer to advancing some of the issues. Just to tell people, because people believe that we are reacting to what's happening externally. In 2015, and prior to that, as Prime Minister, when Gaston Brown came in, we agreed. Both Gaston Brown and myself were pushing for us to have a uniform approach to matters. As a matter of fact, Gaston and myself, when we were getting to we decided we'll go in together. We were not alone. But obviously, we're happy there 10 years later that there is buy-in to what we proposed back then, and then we advance in those actions that are necessary to bring some harmonization, because there are things I've always felt that we could have done together that will help enhance the integrity of our programs and enhance the scrutiny, the ability for programs to be properly scrutinized, so that they're sharing our information and sharing our best practices among ourselves. So we're happy that we're advancing it. But coming out of that, I believe that there is strong political will, and we have the technical support who are providing the advice to the heads of government to advance in those actions. So we're in a much better place where the CBI is concerned. You said the citizenship program is under threat. I mean, like everything else. I mean, banking is under threat with de-risking. You have trade is under threat by the introduction of tariffs and trade barriers. And even within the Caribbean community, people bringing phytosanitary conditions that prevent you from exporting to the countries. You have shipping under threat. Whether it's from the IMO or whether it's from the position of a position on boats manufactured by non-American companies. So every industry, every activity that you'll have, you'll always come under scrutiny from one reason or the other. And the Citizens Investment Program is no different. We believe that in some quarters, people are misinformed. People speak from a point of view of ignorance on small issues, and people speak from a legitimate point of questioning. We understand that, but there are some who also speak from a vantage point of deliberate disinformation and misinformation. And unfortunately, the opposition operatives have made this a political football, hoping that the program can come to an end. And it comes to an end, the government will be able to provide for the citizens, and that will usher in a change of government. But the question is, if that's what will happen, what will you inherit? And so it's the whole concept of you can't give me biscuit, but you will take the bread from my mouth. And I think this is where I'm talking about that the program is to be defended. Not by me alone, because this country is not mine. I'm just a citizen like everybody else. I happen to have a position in the country, but I am a citizen like everybody else. And everyone in this country will be impacted because the private sector and the developers and the agents are many major beneficiaries of the CBI program. And therefore people's voices need to be heard. It can't only be the voice of a prime minister defending the integrity and the future of our country when everybody benefits. And so this is what we're talking about. And so when you go to the court case, for example, there's only one motivation of the court case, is to seek to stop the program. There's no two ways about it. It's to stop the program. People will come under all kinds of disguises to raise concern. But the opposition's movement has always been to sabotage the country. And they have done it in many instances, whether it's writing to the World Bank on pure lies about the misuse of World Bank funds, whether it's telling the international community to not give Dominica money after the hurricane when you're out there, needing help to put people in homes and get people's livelihoods back. So this has been the United Press Party and its operatives have been on a mission to sabotage Dominica. And this is unfortunate stuff. We're not saying that anybody in this country outside Dominica who has a legitimate concern and wants to raise it, fine. But when you raise a legitimate, you should say you're raising a legitimate concern and a legitimate response is given to you. What do you do with it? And you know that we have had numerous public engagements on the CBI program, providing information to people. Not only the political directorate, but public officers have gone out there and provided information to the public on this and expose the program to the scrutiny of the citizens of Dominica. But that notwithstanding, there is still a movement because people recognize that the CBI is an important source of non-tax revenue to the country. And if that goes, and this is what's going to happen. The entire budget of the National Employment Program comes from that. The government's public sector investment program comes from that. The government in a country like ours is the largest consumer of goods and services. What does that mean to all establishments in Dominica? And so, this is not about me, I keep telling people, this is about the country and how do we see ourselves playing our part in the development of the country. And the changes to the program, we're going to have an independent regulatory commission, and there will be some standardized approaches. For example, we will have the same application form. We will have a legal obligation to share information on all applicants with each other in real time, so that if somebody applies in Dominica and gets rejected, they cannot apply somewhere else. That will certainly be informed. There's a number of other aspects that will certainly enhance. It will enhance the presence of the role of the JRCC in the due diligence processes there, and also our engagement with our international partners. So what we have done in Dominica, for example, we have created, as I've said before, an independent due diligence unit that vets all the applications which come to Dominica. And that due diligence unit is under the direction and control of the Director of the Financial Intelligence Unit. And all of the officers thus far who are in that unit are police officers, and every one of them has been vetted by the regional security system to work in there. Anybody who's going to work in that unit will be vetted. And I made it clear that they should have zero contact with anybody except the Director of Financial Intelligence Unit. So no agent and no person who has a role to play in this program can speak to any officer in that unit. They're completely removed from everybody else. All in an effort to enhance the integrity of the program and the transparency of the program. But in respect to the lawsuit, that's for the court to decide. We always respect the court decision. But what I want to say to all citizens is to understand the motivation of the LLP. You understand? And the question is, Who's financing the senior council? Who's financing the senior council? Because if they say they don't have money to buy a small carnation milk for a senior citizen who was asking for a small carnation milk, where do you get $400,000 to pay a senior counsel to do a case for you nominee? So are they joining forces with people who have interest elsewhere and who wish to see our program disappear so they can benefit elsewhere? So these are the questions that in the media needs to ask. Not for me, I'm a journalist. I'm also a village politician. But these are the questions that the people of Dominica, the voters of Dominica, the residents and citizens of our country need to ask.
Yeah, I think you missed this one.
I missed you. I spent so many times, I said, much time answer your question. Which ones?
The funds from the program last
okay.
year and the year before.
Okay. Well, 2022, 2023, 625 million. Right? 625 million. And 2023, 2024, 622.1 million. And that's the preliminary figures. 594 the preliminary figures. So 597.4 million in the preliminary figures presented in the Parliament. That's from the Ministry of Finance and Revenue. So this is what we have from the CBI funds and so on. Of course, all of this information is contained in the estimates, because we go to Parliament and we itemize and we identify every project and program that is financed by the CBI. So in the budget, for example, we have what we expect to raise, and the following year we give you the actual of what you raise. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. Okay? And if you go to the capital estimates, you will see source of funds, and it tells you CBI. Right? And if you go to the revenue side of the estimates, you will see where it identifies the CBI as a distinct source of revenue. Now, this never happened before I became Prime Minister. It was never reported to Parliament how much would be raised from the CBI funds by way of the estimates of expenditure and revenue. Never. It was never specifically identified in the estimates of revenue. It was just formed part of revenue because the government then used it exclusively for recurrent expenditure. When we came in, we decided that we will use the CBI funds only for capital investments, as you say, public sector investment programs, projects and programs for the government, and also to pay down on our more expensive debt. We only really started using the funds for recurrent expenditure after Hurricane Maria. And of course, we were getting no revenue or anything. Everything was coming in for tax-free, duty-free, VAT-free. People were not paying taxes, people were working and getting paid. So we started using that, of course, in COVID. You understand? And so this is where we are with regards to the CBI funds. It is there for Parliament to see. It is there for the country to scrutinize. Yes, Carla, please.
The U.S. tariff on imported products is expected to negatively affect the Caribbean. What is government's plans to mitigate those increases to the average person? My next question. Recently we heard some comments from St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez regarding the CBI program, stating that he opposes it because, quote, it's not sustainable, it's reckless, and the US and Canada are against it. Lots of corrupt practices involved with vagabonds, money launderers, the lawyers, accountants, and wannabe agents want to thief as much as they can. How do you respond to those comments from Prime Minister Gonzalez? Also, PM, we have a serious issue, the appointment of a Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, where all heads of government must agree for the appointment. And we are well aware of what happened to Sir Brian Allen when he held the post as the then Grenadian leader opposed his appointment. we now have the Justice of Appeal, Mario Michel, who was supposed to meet office in 2026. He has decided that he will retire, or he has retired effective last week, and to clear the path for the appointment of a new Chief Justice, we have now King's Counsel Dexter Theodore lamenting the lack of a unanimous consent from regional leaders who did not agree for him to be appointed as Chief Justice, and he's saying that the process is flawed, explaining that why should politicians have a say in the appointment of a Chief Justice? How do you respond to that also, Prime Minister? And my final one in round one is people are expressing concerns that your government has paid thousands of dollars to a group of Trinidadian lawyers on a case involving the opposition that the court threw out. While the Granby Health District is lacking ambulance, the prison is also lacking proper facilities, our roads is in a bad state, and the list goes on. And yet government has decided to take the matter to the Court of Appeal, which will again cost taxpayers thousands of dollars into the pocket of the Trinidadian group of lawyers. Why was such a decision taken? Wrong one for me.
All right, in respect to the tariffs, obviously, we do not export anything significant to the United States. But no doubt, if the tariffs are imposed on our partners or they impose on goods, for example, steel, eventually the price will increase enormously. So it is something that all of us we are monitoring to see how that goes, whether there will be a reconsideration of the position of tariffs by the United States on countries. And of course we continue to engage the United States of America on these tariffs. We have a meeting, for example, with Secretary of State next week, and certainly this is one of the matters that we'll raise again. So it's a matter for us to look at it. The reality is the world cannot deal with another increase in the price of goods. Already the world have been going through real challenges, increasing in goods. And again, this is where we have to start, in some cases, looking inwards on our consumption practices and habits. And we have to consume more of what we grow and more of what we produce. And so while we cannot impose trade barriers because of our regional commitments and also global legal commitments by way of the WTO, but there's nothing preventing citizens and residents from engaging themselves in their own consumption practice. And I've said so many times before that we have soap, and we use the soap from BCP. It's one of the better soaps you can find anywhere in the world, especially the one that has aloe vera in it. So why do we have to buy the soaps coming from elsewhere? So if we support the soaps, water, if we want more water in plants, then let's consume more of what we have in Dominic. And so we have to start looking at ourselves and see what are going to be our consumption practices. We had the abattoir, but we were selling, but there was not enough consumption in a short period of time as compared to the consumption that we would have for imported meats. So these are some practices. We're now spending how many billions, Roland? $6.4 million to rehabilitate the abattoir. And our hope is that we can sit down and we can take advantage of the meats that come from the abattoir. So these are the things that we have to look at. I think we have to look at our own practices, and this is one of the ways we're gonna help mitigate it. It's gonna be difficult for any government to subsidize prices if you just do not have the fiscal means to do it, to sustain it. It may be a one-off situation, but it cannot be cases. Now, now on the issue of first of all, I want to set aside this notion about bad roads in Dominica and other things and so on. I mean, we have spent and continue to spend, hundreds of millions of dollars in improving the road network in Dominica. And we have spared no effort in that. I mean, if you go to the villages and you see the extent of roads that never existed before, you right there in Port Michel, you're enjoying smooth food in every part of Port Michel, including Union Estate. There, I mean, so and so we've invested heavily in roads. Yes, if you're a territory like Dominica, you'll always have to do road maintenance.
Yes.
Whether it's heavy rain or the big trucks or whatever it is, you'll always have to do road maintenance. But I don't think anybody in Dominica, the issue is, Carla, because we've gotten so accustomed to not having potholes. The moment you have a pothole, we get upset, and I get upset too. You understand? We get so accustomed to no potholes. When you get a pothole, we get upset. But I don't think we should take one or two potholes in one or two areas and say that the road network is terrible. No way. I don't think anybody in Dominica will agree with that classification, and so on. Okay, I also want to set this aside as misinformation or disinformation, and should not be carried in the news unchallenged. In respect to the case, I would leave that to the Attorney General and the state lawyers to respond to all the technicalities of the stuff. But I don't think one can say that one should not spend money on ensuring that everybody gets justice. But in respect to the appeal, my understanding from the Attorney General is that if the ruling is left unchallenged, it becomes case, it becomes a law, essentially, a reference. And therefore, it is important that you give a higher court the opportunity to adjudicate on the matter, because the application is on the road. So it's not, I don't think one should look at it as who was in court. One has to look at the legal merits of the matter before the court and determine whether there is a basis, a reasonable basis for the state to appeal to a higher court to adjudicate on this matter, so that we know what is the decision of the court, so that future cases, a higher court would have adjudicated on it, and that's your final court, and that is the view of the final court. It's not the first time that a country, a state, has appealed a case. It's not the first time, and it will be the first time. You understand what I'm saying? So while one understands that lawyers are not cheap, that's the reality. You understand? But the question is, at what point do you say it is too much to spend to seek justice, especially from the state standpoint? So I leave it at that. I'm not going to discussing the merits and dimensions of the case. I'm not discussing the judge's decision. That's a matter for lawyers to debate and to argue in the courts. I was speaking from a broader perspective on this. The issue of the Chief Justice, the issue of the statement in the Prime Minister's Sentencing, I don't think I want to engage myself in a response to this. So I'll just leave it as that, and not to react to the statement. I have been around for some time, and I never believe in this idea of shouting across the Caribbean Sea or pontificating on any issue. That's never been my style, and I don't think I want to change at this stage of my life, or at this stage of my political career. At this stage, so I'll do just that. In respect to the Chief Justice appointment, yes, there was not a unanimous position on the appointment of Mario Mitchell as the Chief Justice. It was unfortunate. because we did not get a full agreement about heads on this. Because I believe that it's important that we ensure the stability of the courts and that the courts has somebody at the helm who's appointed to carry out the duties of the court, because the citizens will have many concerns with the courts and the carriage of justice. And I think the appointment of a Chief Justice is crucial in that regard. And my hope is that we can get agreement on a name to be appointed as Chief Justice of the OECS Supreme Court, and that is absolutely important. And I'm not sure whether I don't want to read 2026 or 2025 that Mr. Mitchell was
2026.
So I don't want to speak to that, but I know he was nearing the age of retirement. On the issue of one saying that politicians appointing judges, everybody will happen. In the United States, they appoint you based on who you support politically. So no, but the whole world does it. So what was system right? And that's how it has always been. So we have to be careful that we don't give people the impression that it is not happening. First, not happening. That was the before. That's always been the case. That you will need unanimity for the selection of Chief Justice. And there may be reasons for this. The drafters of that may have a reason for it. And that's what it is. You know, there are times that you hope that it works better. You understand? Or it works and so forth. But not finding consensus or agreement doesn't necessarily mean that the system is flawed. People have reasons why they may object to a person being appointed or something, and that's a matter for individual governments to take and whether to criticize the government's position. I'm not for me to share with the public a particular view. I can tell you Dominica's position, that Dominica was in full support of the appointment of Mario Mitchell as the Chief Justice. So that's Dominica's position. I'm in a position to say this. And Dominica's position is that at all material times when there is a need for a Chief Justice, we must move with speed to appoint a Chief Justice and not have somebody acting for a due period of time. But we also have to appreciate the way in our jurisdiction that you may have somebody who you believe might be interested, but who may not be interested for one reason or the other. And so the human resource base of the OECS is not as wide as people would want us to believe. You understand? So this is why it's important for us to maybe start look from outside and further afield to set our net on this. You know, so because if you look at the CCJ, you have judges from Ireland, judges from Africa now sitting because the pool that you have of people wanting to come to serve, and you won't have somebody living their private practice and come to the bench, because in half a minute they make the whole year's salary of Chief Justice. But you know, somebody will have a perfect Chief Justice. If he was younger, Tony Astavan.
He never wanted to go in the He never wanted to.
But he's too old now. Tony's too old. Yes, I think I answered all the questions, right?
Well,
Yes.
yeah.
Right.
Good morning, Prime Minister. I do have 2 questions this morning. You see, I'm interested. Prime Minister, will you give the assurance to the Dominican public that you will not temporarily interfere in the electoral reform by calling a snap election before the reform, such as confirmation and the issuing of voter IDs are completed? I'm just asking again, will you give the Dominican public that you will not temporarily interfere before an election is called, or snap elections are? And the second question, Mr. Prime Minister, let me see if I can get this. Mr. Prime Minister, why do we need to go to the court to reveal the numbers and the information requested with the CBI? And how much money, can you tell the public, how much money has been raised by MMC, and where's the money, and can these figures be verified?
Well, if I take the last question, I mean, all of these figures are captured in the estimates of revenue and expenditure. All of that is in there. That is the most sacred place for the information to be resident. That's the ultimate court of the land. That's the ultimate authority in the country, the legislature. And we took a decision deliberately to ensure that we can report to them, because this wasn't the case when David Genshaw was in office, and this wasn't the case when the Republican Party was in office. So there's nothing to hide, and even when questions are asked, answers provided. But there are some people, like the opposition, who have the particular machination, so they're not interested in information, or they're not interested in facts. What the opposition is interested in, and you know that for as well, I'm sure, is to see whether they can stop this program. They can stop all of the opportunities they had to promote Dominica, whether it's on CBS, on Al Jazeera, on France 24, whatever it is, was always to seek to sabotage Dominica. And if you say that you're interested in the welfare and well-being of Dominica, and you have an opportunity to go on CBS that has 50 million viewers, you said nothing positive with Dominica? Nothing. So every opportunity the opposition has gotten and created is about to undermine the welfare and well-being of Dominica. And so there's nothing to hide. They have decided to go to court, not us. Because the information is there in the public domain. It is there. And so it's unfortunate, but that's a matter for the lawyers to deal with. Whatever questions the courts want, and we'll provide them with the answer. And I spoke to an ambassador for one of the European Union countries. I don't want to say the country, but one of the European Union countries. And he said to me, Prime Minister, you know, what these opposition parties are doing, they say they don't want to stop the program. But that's effectively what they're seeking to do by their actions. This is what it's supposed to do, and a lot of it is based on envy, on jealousy, and that's what it is. And how do you build a country when we seem to be preoccupied with envy and jealousy and so on? And when you want to come to serve people, it's hard work. It's not easy work. So these guys want to and it's not only the CBI, as I said, after the hurricane, the opposition was in New York. While I'm inside pleading for help for Dominica, the opposition is outside telling everybody going in, don't give us any money. They wrote many times. And if the World Bank and others did not know how we were spending the money, they would have stopped our projects and interventions. Because they have been following, they do their own audits. And Dominica has had a 100% positive record of being able to account for every money, every dollar that somebody has given to us. We're very, very careful with how we use people's money. Very, very careful. And those entities will tell you that we have with them exceptional relationships. So it is all to stop this CBI project, but that's okay. And this is why I believe that Dominicans need to stand up and be counted in this. Because what if the court would give an injunction and say, well, let's stop the program until the court case is heard? The court could have said so. And the court can say so. What does that mean for the jobs in the cable car? What does that mean for the jobs in the hotels that have been constructed? What does that mean for the jobs in the marina? What does it mean for the NAP people who we pay $5 million every month? Have we stopped to appreciate the impact of this NAP program on the lives of so many citizens across Dominica? I leave it to our consciences to reflect upon it. In respect to the Constitution, as I know, the Parliament cannot pass a law that is unconstitutional. And when I take my oath, part of the oath says I believe that I have to uphold the Constitution. So I cannot agree to you in the public to be constricted by what people expect and not follow the Constitution. To ask me to not follow the Constitution is asking me a very dangerous thing. I must uphold the provisions of the Constitution. And the Constitution says that the Prime Minister can call elections at any time. So to tell me to promise to you to go contrary to my oath is not a good request, man. I mean, privately I can talk to you, but I can't make that promise publicly because I'll be going contrary to my oath.
So you cannot assure?
It's not about that. Because assurances are strong word too. And I think it would go against my oath to uphold the law and the Constitution of Dominica. And to ask me to break the Constitution and not get it to the Constitution. Don't ask me to that. But we'll see how it goes, Matt. We'll see how it goes. But I agree with you that we have passed a law on electoral reform. It's not for the Electoral Commission to implement. I recognize it's going to be a very expensive undertaking because the software and the hardware that we have to procure. I think what is the projected about $2.3 million from the US? How much it is? So it's going to be a significant sum. I'm waiting for the Electoral Commission to write to us to let us know how much money is how we have to provide them. Plus you have to rent centers across Dominica. Plus you have to employ confirmation officers and provide all necessary supporting facilities. So it's going to be a significant sum to undertake, but we have to undertake it nonetheless. And we're committed to that, and we're committed to provide the resources to effectively and efficiently implement the provisions of the law relating to electoral reform in Dominica.
Good morning, this is Steve Vidal, Kyrie FM.
Steve, you're a new haircut, man.
Yes, sir, thank you very much. Mr. Prime Minister, just an update on the hospital, the suspension of the outpatient phlebotomy services at the hospital, and also the Roosevelt Enhancement Project, the national budget, and any plans by your government to forge greater relationships with China to help in terms of business, to help cushion the blow that Dominica, of course, will suffer from the U.S. tariffs. These are my questions.
In respect to the lab, my simple response based on what the administration was saying to me, that there are some supplies which are low. It's not that they do not have them, but they're low. An order is placed, and one of the orders will get in there this week, hopefully from Federation. So what they have done is to focus on emergencies and those patients who would be at the hospital, and of course surgery that would have to be scheduled to be done, and to temporarily suspend services to the wider public. But I believe that is a review of this, because I'm told that in some cases there are enough supplies to open the public. But I think the Ministry of Health could provide you a better update in the course of today or tomorrow. But it's something we'll discuss and get back to you on. But I think the services should be reinstated this week to the wider public, which they are letting know later on. In respect to roads enhancement, we have gone a step further. I think we have gone for tender for the consultant. So there are some phases we have to go through. One is for the consultant to be engaged. Once the consultant is engaged, then we move to the construction bids or tenders, tender phase, and we're hoping that can be done very quickly. We will firm up. There's also one outstanding matter where we have to firm up the appointment of a project manager, and I think we should go to action by the end of today. So from the government standpoint, all of the actions have been taken. We've prepared all the documentation required. The funds are there, so just go to the next stage. And I understand the importance of the project to not only Rose or the residents of Rose, but the whole country. This is our city, and it's like you're leaving home. In your home, you know, it has to be spick and span, and you're only going to get Roseau to be enhanced through roads and improved drainage and sidewalks, and this is why we've gone out and contracted a loan of $40 million US dollars to have those roads that would be rehabilitated. And I understand the anxiety of the people, and I recognize that they have said this is one of the major national projects, and I have also heard that they said to me, Skerrit, if you do that road enhancement, your party may be there for life. That's what they said. That's what they say. But we're committed to this. You know, I am as anxious as the parliament is, and the parliament is as anxious as the constituents are, and the cabinet is as anxious as the Dominican citizens are. So we'd like to see this thing started very quickly. But the good news is that we have the money for it. Okay? And the good news is that the process is going on. And so I believe that all things considered, we will certainly see physical work on this project this year by the summer.
Yes.
Because you will need a few months to go for the process of procurement. But once you procure the procurement board, it's meant to start. But no doubt is going to enhance, and of course part of this will involve the construction of public washrooms in certain strategic locations in the city. All of this will enhance it. I also want to say to you that I've given directions for the redesign of the ferry terminal. So we'll be engaging a local architect. Hoping to meet him today so I can give him some ideas as to what I would like to see in this terminal building to enhance the experiences of the passengers using the ferry. So that we're done, so that we can move to have this ferry terminal. Because as you know, the building started as a small wooden structure, and every year you add to it and add to it and add to it. It was never done based on a master plan. So now it's very difficult to move around the ferry, but it will be a built-for-purpose terminal that will enhance the passengers' experience, etc. Okay. The issue of China, of course, China continues to be a major partner in our national development. We appreciate them very much. As you know, the next project they'll be working on with us is the Borough Square in Portsmouth to pave project. And what we've agreed to do with them is to break this project into 3 phases, which was originally our plan when we were in the route of contracting a loan for this. So the first phase will be from Borough Square to Ansley, and this will be a significant part of the project. And the second phase will be from Ansley to Wesley, and the third phase from Wesley to Paypal. In the scheme of things, the most difficult part is really from Borough Square to Ansley. One can only appreciate the number of bridges that you have to cross from Borough Square to Ansley, and the number of culverts that you have to construct, and the realignment of the road. Because certainly there are some corners that we can eliminate, and we intend to eliminate as part of the redesign to allow for improved transportation of people and movement of vehicles in that area. So we're excited about that. Very soon, China will sign an engineering firm, design firm, to to start the process of designing the route and then go through the tender process. So on the broader relationship, obviously, China has resources. The rates are reasonable for lending, and it has become a major source of funding for literally every country in the world, from the United States down to Zimbabwe, in terms of loans, in terms of trade, in terms of commerce. I mean, the United States itself has a significant debt to China. China has resources, and we continue to engage them to see how we can assist us in diversifying our economy, growing our economy, so we can create more sustainable jobs and bring greater income to our country, and so in a better position to provide for our citizens.
Prime Minister, Dominica celebrates 36 years next month in May of local government in Dominica. 36 years. But local government reform has been discussed over the last 20 years. Government has said local government reform is a priority. But when you look at the system now, the government has not been able to implement local government reform for the last so many years. Why has the government not moved quicker to implement local government reform? And just want to ask about the fact that you said recently government has secured monies for the lighting of Windsor Park. Can you give us a date and idea when will the work begin on the lighting of Windsor Park? And the other question has to do with an athletic facility for Portsmouth, for the Portsmouth area. That I know is also on the cards. What is the very latest on this athletic facility for Point Round? And as we speak about athletic facility, an indoor facility was supposed to be built in the Stock Farm area. That has also been on the cards for the government. Is that project still on the cards, or are you deciding not to go ahead with the facility at Stock Farm? And before Kari comes in, I just want to ask you about the use of illegal firearms in Dominica. Sorry? Right, so the use of illegal firearms. There is still a concern, Prime Minister, about the use of illegal firearms in Dominica. A lady met me yesterday and told me in her community there's still some fright because of what she has witnessed over the last few years. We heard of a shooting death in the Roosevelt area yesterday. The police have done certain things to arrest that situation, but Prime Minister, is there anything that can be done further to ensure we deal with this thing once and for all? Thank you very much, Khaled John Baptist.
In respect to local government, obviously, we have spoken about this. There was a report on this. I believe we implemented some aspects of that recommendation. Obviously, there'll be some time, and I believe that report itself needs reviewing and updating because many things have changed. Obviously, local government was established a particular period of time to address particular issues. The reality is the society which existed when it was created is a completely different society now. And therefore, I believe that we have to take local government reform beyond just what the report said, but to look at its functioning, and to see how it relates to the others. Because I've made that point many times. The state has so many entities going to villages, all right? But there's no coordination among them. So we have youth officers, we have sports, we have DDO, DDA, we have cooperative officers, we have cultural officers, we have agricultural extension officers, we have, you name it, we have it. But there's no coordination among those entities to see how we can work together to better service those communities. So all of those things in terms of reform need to be taken into consideration. It's a discussion we've been having in the cabinet, and ministers have been having at the ministry level. Even, for example, youth division, I believe that it has to evolve. It has to, we have to do some things differently than we did in the 80s when it was created. So it has not been taken off the agenda, but certainly we have to update the reports and the studies that are existing, and to see what role the community development can play, and local government can play in the process. The other issue of we fail to understand the taxes that people pay. So many countries you have land tax, you have house tax, and it's significant. And that's what those local entities use to finance garbage collection, to finance road maintenance, to finance other services. So we cannot look at these reforms in isolation to how you finance the functioning of those entities. And I believe that we have to look at that aspect of it and to make a determination on whether we should have higher rates, because I believe in any village economic or any economic, what, 50 cents a room? That was since legally that was perfect. You know what I'm saying? And then empower these village councils to deal with garbage collection and garbage management. So give everybody a truck, and they use that money from the house rates to pay for the workers and to pay for gas and to pay for maintenance on the vehicles. So I think we should have a conversation. Thinking about it. Thanks, Curtis, for that question. You have poked something else there. As far as I know, the national lotteries and the provider of the service for the lights have concluded negotiations. You signed the contract. The contract was signed about 2 weeks ago. The contract was signed about 2 weeks ago. It is now left for the supplier to ship the components and also deal with the construction of the terminals. So that contract has been signed. And my mandate to them is that I want the lights up in September. So the 2 ministers have to follow on that. The lights have to be up in September. It can't be after September. After September. So that's one. In regards to athletics facility, our responsibility is to provide the land, to level it, and some associated works. We've acquired the land. Studies have been carried out. Soil testing have been carried out on the land. The next step is to level the plot. It's 4 acres, 8 acres. There's an in-house estimate. I think they'll go into discussion with service providers soon on this. And my understanding is that there's a representative from the World Athletics consultant who will come in to look at the site and to advise on the next step. So once that consultant comes in from World Athletics, we'll certainly be able to push the project. But insofar as actions on the government, we have done that because the first action was to provide land, and we were able to inform them. There are many other questions we asked, and we were able to satisfy those questions. So we're well on our way towards the realization of the athletics track in Dominica.
That's a point wrong.
Point wrong was the most suitable location for this. And I want to thank the 2 other landowners. As you know, government has 10% shares in the project estate. And the 2 other shareholders, the estate of Leo Emmanuel, otherwise known as Moneygod, and also Mr. Shillingford, Reginald Shillingford. Both Shillingford and the estate have been very helpful in advancing the acquisition of this land. And I want to recognize the efforts of both Honorable Oscar George and Honorable Greta Roberts in advancing those interventions where sport is concerned. And I also want, in respect to the athletics facility, I want to recognize publicly again the tremendous efforts of Brendan, right? Brendan Williams, yeah. Who has been an exceptional ambassador for sports in Dominica. And so I want to thank him for his leadership and for his support in that. Regards to the indoor facility, is something that we have to revisit. We have to scale up the design of it because part of the problem was the design was coming out to be very costly. And so I think we just have to revisit the design and do something that is fit for purpose and not this extravagant facility that we're trying to do. With respect to illegal firearms, let me say it very clearly. And let me warn everybody in Dominica who is in possession of an illegal firearm. We are very serious about the presence of illegal firearms. We are seeking, we're working in the United States to address the source of these firearms, but we in Dominica will have to address the handling of those firearms. And I continue to speak to people about the dangers of having illegal firearms. The dangers of having firearms generally, but more so the dangers of having illegal firearms. This is something that we have to get rid of. And my urge to people is that those of you who have them, you need to dispose of them. Dispose of them. We need to get it to the police so that it can be properly disposed of. And I said to a lot of young people that this illegal firearm that you have, you very well be the one that will kill you or kill a relative of yours. And I have said to the police, I do not want them going to harassing people for marijuana. But if you will know that you have a legal firearm, you will certainly be harassed by the law. What we need is for the courts to play its part in meeting out the fines and the sentences which Parliament has put in place by legislation. Because this has to be a societal effort to eradicate the presence of illegal firearms in the country. We must never come to a point where we do not feel safe in our country. We must never come to a point where we feel uneasy in our country. Dominica is very peaceful. We need to maintain it. But for us to maintain it, every one of us must play our part in that. So yes, the government has a role to play. Yes, the police has a role to play. But at the end of the day, each of us has a role to play in maintaining law and order and enhancing the peaceful nature of our country. Illegal firearms is the most dangerous thing. It's a global challenge. Because the majority of homicides we're having are through use of illegal firearms. Okay? Yes?
It appears that the report cards of various MPs are below average. Outside of the major projects such as the International Airport, the Marine and Cable Car, geothermal, and a few hotels which have started, there seem to be very little reports from the various constituencies PM as to what is really happening. Can you address us on that, please? Also, when do we expect changes regarding the removal of income tax and switch over to consumption tax, and the issue of the duty on customs duties is very, very high? This year marks the 25th years of the World Creole Music Festival. I'm just thinking, why can't we launch the festival earlier for more publicity, and when we will get financial, and also when we will be getting financial statements regarding the festival? Because we just hearing the festival, and we're not hearing how much has been collected, accounting, we're not hearing anything about that. People are asking. And my next question is, now that Clare Harbour has closed one of its branches in Portsmouth, does your government have any plans of utilizing that building? And also, what are your government plans to create more employment for the people of that constituency, since Ross is gone and now Clare Harbour is also gone? Madam Parliament, we're working with you, so ask for that. You ask that question on your behalf.
I don't understand the nature of your question in respect to the tariffs. So I'm not sure how I should respond to this. All I would say to you is that I believe that the government and the Parliament's concerned, I think there has to be greater engagement in the public. I think Parliament's ministers need to speak to the public more than they currently do, and to share the country what is happening in their respective ministries and their respective constituencies. And I think that both traditional and social media need to be used more effectively to do so. If you go to any of these constituencies, there'll certainly be some intervention that the government is having, or there are some significant plans for some things to commence. And even from a national project standpoint, while say for example the cable car might be resident in the Roosevelt Valley, but you have people from as far as Portsmouth and Granby and Scottshead working on these projects. When they get paid in the Roosevelt Valley, they take their paycheck back to those communities. So, and likewise the international airport. So the number of, I believe that, if you were to ask me, I believe that the missing link where all was concerned is that Parliament need to enhance, and ministers need to enhance their visibility in the country, and to have greater conversations, public conversations with the people they represent. And I think if that is addressed, then the perception of nothing is happening in some parts will certainly be set aside within 5 minutes of this speaking. And I think too that we do things because we're committed to doing things, and we don't spend time talking about them sufficient. But in the same token, if we don't talk about them, nobody will talk about them for us. And so it's important for us to articulate these things. And what this government, this party in government has been able to do to navigate so many challenges that it has confronted, whether it's from the natural disasters, whether it is from COVID-19, or there's in the country and so on, and we're still speaking about so many major national interventions. And I would take umbrage to anybody to say, well, apart from those major projects are crucial. Those major projects are crucial. These are projects that have been elusive to successive governments. Every government has spoken about doing an international airport. Every government has spoken about doing a marina, and the cruise village and so forth. And we're doing these projects during the most difficult period the world is experiencing. You understand what I'm saying? And all of these projects. So you have the airport in Wesley, but Soufriere is going to benefit. Because if you go to Soufriere, and Scott said you have many properties down there that provide beds to tourists. And while you have the marina in Portsmouth, but Newtown is going to benefit because you have many of the boatmen there who have skill on maintenance and management of yachts and boats and so on, who are going to benefit. And the significant investment in the east that's cost us over $200 million to build this road is going to benefit the entire country. I would not agree or allow anybody to downplay the importance of this transformational project. One can only look at the islands next to us, around us, and so on. I mean, what they have and we do not have is international airport and affordable direct access. And just by the mere 2 flights we have coming from North America and the sheer impact it is having. I was speaking to a property owner in Dominican, and that person was saying to me that last season they did very well. Very, very well. And he said, it was not said you were smiling. And then this year, they are 32% better than the previous year. And they said to me that this United Airlines flight is crucial, and you know, the opposition chastised us for having this revenue guarantee with them, which, as if it is something Skerrit invented and it's the first time in the world they hear this and so on. We know every airport in America is subsidized by either the federal government or the state government. Some of our airlines. I mean, how many times American Airlines went into bankruptcy? In my lifetime, maybe over 10 times. You know, and bailed out by the government. So I think we're upward looking. I think there is great hope in this country with these major investments, and we still continue to build homes for people and to provide them with a better shelter that will enhance their quality of life. You know, and continue to spend money heavily on with negotiating for a loan for the rehabilitation of the road from Poncassi to Guadiana, and also for the rehabilitation of the road from the Lion Valley Bridge to Sultan. So that's been done. I told you that we contracted a loan to relocate or resettle the people of Campbell, and also Peace Sophia Sansobe. We signed a contract first week of May, you see? I say first of May is the first week, so we'll see it again. So I'll go first week of May. I'll go faster than them, so I'll go first week. For Anthony, that would certainly enhance the port, and the port can truly be an official port, and to facilitate trade between Guadeloupe and the Saints and Marigoland, and make more money for the people who are part in the trade. So there are a number of positive things happening in the country. You know, $6.4 million on the abattoir. We're doing something else in agriculture there with the certification facility, citrus, $7.5 million just for the citrus certification facility that will enhance our ability to produce seedlings for citrus and still be one of the few countries in the Western Hemisphere where you can get a fresh glass of juice in Dominic. And we're building boats for the fishermen from across Dominica, providing them outboard motors. And we're giving them grants, small farmers and agro-processors grants to enhance their trade. Does that, a lot of people kind of like, they come for these checks in a surreptitious manner. Because some people want to peddle the notion that nothing is happening in Dominica. And this is why I don't agree with the Ministry of Agriculture and the unit giving anybody any check in the office and hiding. Let there be transparency. Transparency doesn't only exist in the Prime Minister. So if you're getting taxpayers' money, why shouldn't the taxpayers know who the government is giving the money? And then you go on social media and say nothing happened in Dominica when you have a check of $40,000 behind. So I agree with you. That's what the private should tell you. Any questions?
Final questions?
Yeah.
Income tax and the social.
Income tax, as you know, I am not a tax person. I am anti-direct taxes. You know, but that's my personal view. I cannot impose my personal view on the state because if we're raising over $40 million from income tax and you get rid of that immediately, then you will also have to look at where you're going to replace that $40 million from. Now, I intimated whether the country would have an appetite in increasing the VAT rate. But if you increase the VAT rate as well, it's going to have an impact on the price of goods on the shelf. So we wonder, some say. So while I support the idea of consumption tax as a route to go, this is why we introduced VAT and we remove consumption tax, sales tax, hotel occupancy tax, and the number of taxes that we remove when we introduce the VAT. But if you affect one area, you can affect another area. And I think this is why we are working so fast and so hard in implementing those transformational projects that we believe will place us in a better position to enhance our revenue and thereby be able to relieve ourselves of these direct taxes. I think what we're looking to do is to see whether we can reduce on the rates. So having all these three bands to have one rate of income tax and to see how much revenue we can generate from that. And so that people go home with more of the money. But lest we forget that when we came into office, the tax threshold was $12,000. Now it is $30,000. So your first $30,000 is not taxed in denominator. And we also reduce the bands. So we reduce the rates. The highest rate was 40%. It is 35% now. The other one was what, 25 or 30? 30 is what, 25, and the other one was 20, it is 15. So the question is, we look at different iterations as to what you can go that the fiscal space can accept this time. Whether you reduce the rates, so you move from 25 to maybe 20, from 15 to maybe 10, and from 10 to whatever it is. So we're looking at that as well to see which one will give an ease up to the consumer, to the taxpaying public, but will not dramatically affect the fiscal health of the country. That will place the government's ability to pay in a difficulty. So you don't want to help someone in one end and harm someone in the other end. That will end up harming everybody in the other end. You understand? But to go the route of the VAT would not be something that I would agree to, because it's going to have a direct impact on every single person, including those who are not paying income tax. You understand? So we have to look at the income tax. Now there's a tax that one can introduce, and it can help you eliminate income tax. And we had asked the IMF to do a study for us, and the document we need to make available to the public, so that the public can scrutinize it. The presumptive tax, right? The presumptive tax, and so it's something that the public may want to look at and to provide advice to the government as to which one you believe would be better in terms of the impact on the people down. But the whole idea is to bring relief to the people. But in the process of bringing relief, you don't want to cause harm to yourself that could end up harming everybody. But if the government is not able to pay, then everybody is affected. You understand? In respect to the Curl Festival, what the minister is there and the PS there, so they take note of that. Are you guys launching? When are you launching the Curl Festival?
We intend to launch very soon, and some of the challenges are not with us. It's sometimes the people we're trying to control. But the goal is to launch very soon.
I still support Carlisle's post.
And we support it too.
That's what we're doing. So, yeah.
We support it.
Yeah. But is it soon? So we'll see how it goes.
Soon is also soon.
And that's my question. That's my question too.
The last time I asked 2 questions, I'm going to ask 4 questions. All right? Mr. Prime Minister, you seem to know a lot about how much the opposition is paying the senior councils. All right? Can you tell us how much you're paying the senior council, especially to prosecute cases against the opposition? The next question, I'm quoting from you now. At your last meeting, you're asking for the private sector to speak out. And in the face of transparency, you always call people to be transparent. Can you speak to the people we call in the private sector to speak out for the CBI? And as it relates to the NEP, I'm being told that the NEP is being used as a political football. If some of the workers say anything against your policies, they've been fired. And the last, and I know you're going to laugh at this one again, 2 days away from April 30, are you still considering resigning?
All right. Let me. This is what I know. This is what I said. As a senior councils are very expensive.
Yes.
All right. In large measure because you have very few senior councils within our jurisdiction, and so they're expensive. I always mention that I find told it to be very reasonable with rates. Senior council, that's the concern. So this is why I can estimate, or I can suspect, or I can presume how much the opposition is paying the senior counsel coming out of trade. In respect to the NEP, this is absolutely not true. I mean, we created the NEP, and as you know, the opposition criticized it every day, every step of the way they have criticized it. They made people who are on the NEP feel as if they are less of a Dominican by being on the program. And I'm grateful to all of them for staying the course and playing their role. And for me, a number of components of the NEP program. We have people in the private sector, we have people in the public sector, we have people under the National Education Program, and we have people who provide care to senior citizens and the physically disabled. Okay? And we also have people assisting with farm labor to a limited number of farmers across the country. And for me, the two components that really stand out is one, the beautification component, and the care for the senior citizens and for children and for the physically disabled. And what these people are doing, the service that people carry, we should never belittle that service that people provide. Because when you go to the community and you see how it is kept and the care and attention that they place on it, you understand? And if we're saying cleanliness and beautification is part of who we are, I don't see why people are seeking to cast any aspersions on this program of people who do it. And also persons who provide care to senior citizens. Alright? In the program, many persons people who were engaged in the private sector have graduated to permanent positions. I saw a document that was given to me some time ago, the number of people who have graduated within the public service into permanent appointments.
Yes.
So everyday people are graduating into their permanent employment in those institutions. And persons are also moving out because they have been able to create jobs for themselves, in large measure because of a grant from the government or one of the projects the government has or loan from the aid bank. And so you have this movement taking place. It is a costly exercise, but it's something that we remain true to because it's an important part of it. And what this has done for many families is that it has literally gotten people out of poverty, many families. Literally saved them out of poverty because they're able to earn for themselves. And they're able to go to an institution and take something on credit because they have a means of repaying. Do I caution them to manage their money much better? That's the model for them. You understand? And so I'm not aware of any political football. I know people in Dominica, I drive across Dominica, and under these programs, I see the games of a significant number of people who don't support us, who own these programs. It's okay for because they're Dominicans. You understand? So, in any constituency.
Yes, especially
And so
Separate.
if you have people who you believe have been fired for political reasons, give me those names. So let's not make a statement that can be substantiated. Give those names and I'll certainly delegate. Because this is not part of our consideration. Okay? And then your final question is on April 30.
No. Before that, there's a question related to transparency and the CBI people speaking up for the CBI.
Oh, the people, I don't have to point finger at anybody or call out people. I made a general comment, and it is matter for all of us. This is our country, this is our region. And this is not only about CBI, I have also made the point about climate change. You do not hear people speak about the impact of climate change outside of governments. Even in respect to de-risking and where banks are concerned. even with respect to blacklisting of our countries. All of us must lend our voice when these things happen, because the Bible tells us that we have to be our neighbor's keeper. We cannot raise an issue when it affects us. You raise an issue when it affects somebody else. That's what we are on earth for. And so, all I'm saying to us is that we cannot leave the fight on these issues, whether it's crime, whether it is to get people to take care of themselves better by way of their wellness and their health, whether it is the de-risking, whether it's climate change and the injustices that are meted out to us by the developed countries, where they make promises to us that they don't keep them. But we have to foot the bill. We saw what climate change has done to us. And so all I'm saying to all of us in society, that we need to lend our voice. And I'm not telling people to become partisan in their views. Politicians will do the politics. But let us share our views as Dominicans, as OECS people, as Caribbean people. We have to stand in solidarity. Because we all have to appreciate the importance of this program. There's one country that says that 60% of their current expenditure is from CBI. 60%. Luckily for us, we try our best not to rely on CBI for current expenditure. And we only started using that after the hurricane, after COVID. And we try to limit it as much as possible from this, because we understand that everything will have an impact at some point or the other. Whether it's bananas or sugar, whether it was financial services that have been impacted. Anything you have in the world, you have to have a contingency plan. And this is why we have deliberately invested in social programs like warehousing and infrastructure and hotels and airports and so forth. That will be able to generate revenue as well. And our national security, regional security. You see, so I'm not here to point fingers at anybody and say this one. It's a matter for us to decide where do we want to stand on the side of history. How is history going to record us as citizens of our country, as patriots? That's all. So I'm not here to point fingers. I do what I have to do as a citizen of Dominica and as Prime Minister, and it's for you lot to decide the rest. So this is what we have to do. I'm here. I will defend this country wherever I go and before whoever I am. And my hope is that every one of us will do the same. Okay? And the April 30. The reality is, the reality is, there's nobody in this country, and I'm saying so with a great sense of humility. There's nobody in this country at my age who has done more for Dominica. Who at my age? And I've been on for some time. And there are many people out there who want to talk about politicians and so on, but they've never made themselves available. Look at all these people who are there who sacrifice so much to be at the service of people. And some of them, we don't even get regard for it and so on. And everything's a part of everything's a prime minister. So, I don't want anybody to believe that my navel string is buried or tied to the office of the prime minister. I am here making a contribution to this country and doing the best I can to help the country navigate over the challenges that it's experiencing and to ensure that we give hope to people and that the people's future can be assured. So I don't want people to focus on me and what I do and what I don't do. Focus on the government and what the government is doing for this country and what this party, Labour Party, is doing for the country and has done for this country. And I will tell you, the choice, Labour is always the best choice. You understand? And you could even say Labour is a good choice because there's nobody else. And the best one, you could say Labour is a better choice. just to be clear, that Labour is still the best choice. This is the only organized political party in the country. This is the only party that cares for people, and the only party that has a plan and is implementing it for the welfare well-being of the government. I am just the trunk of the tree. We have roots, we have branches, and even if the trunk is removed, then as Toussaint Louverture said to the French when he was captured, the roots shall sprung up, and the revolution shall continue. So the development will continue, whether I'm there or I'm not there. But the most important thing for the people of Dominica is that Labour remains in government, because that's the only party that's serious about it. You look at others, they're dysfunctional. One is in Marigot having a meeting, once they go to Roosevelt, the leaders are in Marigot, the president is there, then the meeting was cancelled.
Who's that?
That's you those people. So focus on what's happening there, and when I take this proverbial ride back with you on this bus to my hometown Vegas, then I will say, well done, good and faithful servant. And that time will come at some point. Okay, at some point. I honestly wish it was the 30th of April, but unfortunately for me, it has to be extended.
Thank
you very much. You have a question?
Yes. So a final question will be very brief, Prime Minister. It has to do with some news that came out from the Secretariat Economic Crime Index last week, putting Dominica at number 17 in terms of leaders in the fight against financial crime. Dominica placed in 17 out of 177 countries around the world. I would just like your comment on that.
I mean, people may say what they want, and they have motivations for saying what they want. And there are some who have made it their duty to stick to research and to denigrate and to sully the name of Dominica. But what we have prided ourselves on in this government is to always be transparent with the Dominica. We go to Parliament, we pass laws, because we always recognize that we're not an island unto ourselves. And we're part of our national architecture, we're part of our regional architecture, we're part of our global architecture. And we have a duty not only to ourselves, but to the global community. And we continue to work with international partners and entities and bodies and to work with them to enhance the integrity of our country, to enhance the transparency of our country, and to enhance the good governance principles of our country. We have nothing to hide whatsoever. And so even when I see a journalist writes an article in Nature Island News that says that the government is not having sufficient engagement with the public, that can't be true. And then the Inter-American Council on Human Rights issues a political statement, pays no attention to the facts that we are providing to them, and then make a statement that in itself has factual errors. So when you have actors working in those international organizations, making statements that are politically motivated with no facts and an indifference to the truth. But here it is, well, we're not here boasting these things. We're number 17, we're grateful for the recognition, but that's how we have conducted ourselves. And so I have not shied away as Prime Minister from any opportunity for scrutiny. Any journalist wants to ask me a question that is sensible or reasonable, we answer. And in Dominica, I don't think that we have had a political leader that has been more accessible than myself in our entire history.
That is true.
Our entire history. And meeting people, and sitting down with Dominicans and every walk of life to hear from them. And what is more democratic about this than he who is the representative people and the people have access to? You understand? And so, ask us a question, we give you an answer, but don't go and paraphrase what we say. Put our voice and say exactly what we say. You understand what I'm saying? And so, if the Inter-American Council of Human Rights sends a draft document saying we're going to publish this, and we say to you, hey, fine, publish, but sentence A is incorrect. Paragraph 2 is not factual. Here are the facts. And you still go about and you publish the facts. Then you put it into question your integrity. You put it into question the reason why you were established, to act as an independent arbiter and to guide member states on how to go about engaging themselves on national duties that have an impact on democracy and the rule of law. And we have to be very careful that we don't tell people that you can break the law, and because of who you are, then you should not be subject to the laws. It's a dangerous thing. And in our country, the only person who is above the law, as long as the person in office is the president. And everyone is subject to the laws of government. And so we must not give people the impression that because you might be a member of parliament or a former member of parliament, and you can just do what you want, and the law should say, okay, well, we should not do anything. But when it happens in other countries, they've been praised now for bringing people to the law because nobody's above the law. And so when these international organizations, independent of us, they come, they do their assessment, they look at the laws that we passed, they look at our policy statements, they see what we say, they see how we vote in the international community, then that's how they go doing their assessments. But we are open and transparent and take note of that. We will work towards getting number 1, number 17, work towards getting number 1, because life evolves. Life evolves. So I want to thank all of you for your questions. They were very difficult questions this time. You guys credit come from me this time. But that is the spirit of it. I think there's mutual respect. And you ask me a question, I'm hoping that my response satisfies your query and your concern. And we look forward to seeing you soon. And all my colleagues are here, they have taken notes to highlight that they will speak more and you will hear from them more.
You're right, I see you more than my father.
All right, thank you very much.
All thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister. And all of you who are tuning in, we will remain accessible. Just to note to the listeners of Cairo FM, you can listen to this press conference again in full at 9 p.m. tonight. I know it's lunchtime. I want to thank all of you for being here, and to those of you who tuned in, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone.